LCD handheld games. Depending on who you are, these little pieces of video game hardware provide either a quick gaming fix, or a feeling of boredom and wasted time. 9 years after a previous Happy Meal promotion for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Sega teamed up again with McDonald's to produce a series of Sonic and Sega themed LCD games to promote upcoming Sonic media, like the director's cut of the original Sonic Adventure and the Sonic X anime. The result were these little beauties, a series of LCD handhelds with different gameplay styles and based around a number of famous Sega icons like Sonic, Tails, Eye-Eye, Knuckles, and everyone's favourite ultimate life form, Shadow. These games made up what I like to call the first generation of the Sega and McDonald's handhelds and were available in Happy Meals in the US in June and July of 2003 and later in 2004 for other regions, including here in the UK. Now, with my little history lesson out of the way, let us take a look at what you get out of the box, or meal in this case, by showing off one of the handhelds which I just happen to still own the original packaging for. Inside the package, you get both the handheld and a single sheet of paper for the instructions. The first thing that will come to your attention when you open one of these games is just how small they really are. They fit in your hand like they're nothing, and I say if you were able to hollow out the inner workings of an original PSP, you could fit 2 of these handhelds inside of it. Given the size of these games, however, they make for very portable devices and can fit in almost any size pocket, which for portable gaming is a plus. The downside to the game's small size is probably the LCD screen itself. It's roughly half the size of my thumb, and you've got to bring it in really close in order to see everything clearly, including some of the smaller LCD images. Taking into consideration that the target audience of these games are obviously children, this may not be that much of a problem to them, but for collectors like myself it's a bit of an issue. I swear these handhelds were much larger when I was a kid. Some of the games on offer in this first generation line include your typical Sonic platformer, a Sonic Drift inspired racing game, your redundant collect falling items game in both soccer and bananas, Tails Sky Patrol LCD, and a Sonic Adventure 2 inspired grinding game. But regardless of what type of game you play, the rules for each one are pretty much the same. They start off slow but progressively get faster every time you advance a level by collecting a certain amount of items or by dodging obstacles for a certain period of time. If you successfully beat all 4 levels as indicated by the meter at the top of the screen, all the game's LCD images will flash on screen with a victory sound for a few seconds and the game ends. If the player fails to accomplish this, well, it's game over of course. The games are very simplistic, even for LCD standards, but if you were a kid getting this in your Happy Meal, they certainly would have helped kill time until desserts arrived on the table. For everyone else, they're nice little collectibles which are stylized very well after their respected character, and make great use of a limited amount of colours. These handhelds were such a success that McDonald's and Sega would launch a new line of games the following year in 2004 to promote the release of Sonic Heroes. Other regions like the UK would receive these games later in 2005. This second line of handhelds more or less carried over the same set of rules that most people were familiar with in the original series, but a wider variety of games were on offer and the games themselves were a little more advanced. For example, the Sonic skateboarding game has the honour of having the most depth of any of the handhelds, as not only do you have to dodge spike balls as long as possible, but you can also collect rings and have the privilege of seeing how many hits you have left with these Sonic icons which disappear for every 5 hits you take from the spike balls. The styling for this second generation line went for an opaque and semi-transparent plastic approach with artwork stickers placed on the front, with a couple of exceptions having flip-top screen covers. In addition to this, depending on what region you got them from, the designs for these games were slightly different. The UK versions were redesigned for their later 2005 release with alternative builds, as well as receiving different names to their American counterparts. The US had the privilege of having a couple of exclusive games in their region, and a big selling point for the line was a rarer silver version of the Shadow hockey game. Only 2,500 copies of this game were produced, and if the customer were to get it in their Happy Meal, they would be in with the chance of winning a prize. The first 25 winners of this contest won a check of $2,500 which could be put towards a new gaming system, while the remaining 2,475 contestants won a Sonic game of their choice from Sonic Heroes and Sonic Mega Collection Plus, presumably for their respective system. Seeing as these handhelds were released in Happy Meals, it's probably a good time to bring up the rather interesting commercials for them. The ads for the first generation of games featured some pretty decent CG work, including a Sonic model which looked virtually identical to his Sonic Heroes FMV incarnation, with some exclusive voice dubs provided by then Sonic voice actor Ryan Drummond.
Get happy!
While this French commercial promoting the second line of toys had some rather impressive CG, which I'd say is almost of Shadow the Hedgehog FMV quality. And of course there's that infamous Pakistani ad, which I won't go that much into since you're all probably familiar with it, but suffice to say it features some of the worst CGI you could ever come across in your life. You know what Chow can be casually described as? Blobs. Little blue blobs. Just think about that. They couldn't even render blobs right. So in conclusion, while they don't offer that much of a gaming experience, the Sega and McDonald's LCD games are definitely a nice addition to any Sonic or Sega Fanatics collection. It could be a little hard to come across specific games on eBay, but when they do show up on the site, they can be purchased rather cheaply, which in the end is the most important thing to take into account when buying them. If you have fond memories playing these games at a McDonald's restaurant, or you're just looking for something stylish and compact to show off in your collection, definitely be sure to check these games out. And until we meet again, this is Sonic94 saying good night, goodbye, and God bless.